Hello and welcome to this presentation from the Urban Penguin. In today's presentation we're going to go through and take a look at how we can secure our web servers. We've already seen in a previous video that we are able to go through and create our own very simple Python HTTP client to test our web server. But we have also seen it gives unnecessary information, such as the version of Apache and the Linux distribution that we are using. There is no need for us to share that information, so we can look at making sure that for every installation that we do with Ansible, it is going to be secured by not showing these server tokens. Hello and welcome to the command line of my Ansible controller. On this machine I've deployed already the web server through to my Ubuntu, and this machine, the Fedora machine. We tested it in a previous video and we could see with our Python client that we could return very basic information. So a quick way to test your connection to a web server perhaps you've installed. We can see it here by running my http.py script targeting Ubuntu on port 80. Now we can see that we get the welcome page coming back, but additionally look at the server field. We're getting additional information about the version of Apache that we are running and the Linux distribution. We don't really need to expose it, and this could be used as extra information for people trying to gain control of our system. Again, when we look at it on my controller system, the local host, we can see the version of Apache, and that is running Fedora Linux. So we have to ask ourselves, why are we providing this information? Well, probably because we've left the systems out of the box and we haven't configured it. Now, one really good thing in our favour is that these systems were deployed using Ansible. So if I've deployed my Apache server with Ansible, anytime then that I find a configuration error or a misconfiguration that we need to correct, I can add it to the playbook to ensure that future installs are going to be correct. When I go through and just run the playbook at the moment, so running my Apache YAML, of course it's looking to install, add the web content and start the service. And on both the Ubuntu and controller systems, everything meets the requirements. So of course there's nothing to be done. But if I start adding to this, then we're going to be able to go through and apply the configuration that we need. And this is what any great configuration management tool can do. So come on, let's clear our screen and get into editing the playbook. So vim and the apache.yaml file. So you can see what I have, and I've got the install, adding web content and managing the service. In some ways it doesn't really matter where I put it, but logically configuring the server should take place after installing our server. That's a logical place because we're going to have the configuration files at that point. On Red Hat based systems, the service won't be started, but on Debian based systems, the scripts will start the service. So I'm adding in a new task. Each task is a list, so starts with the dash, so it should be dash and space, and then the name of the task, which is more of a description. So here I'm going to put secure server tokens. As we go through, we can then put the module, the Ansible module, and I'm just going to use line in file. Now this is the old way of doing the work with 2.9 and below. Still works in later versions, that's why I tend to stick with it. But in version 2.10 and above, they had collections. And with collections, we can use the full name of Ansible.builtin.line-in-file. It's just helping with the namespace. But either is going to work for us on this version of Ansible. With our line-in-file module, we just make sure then that we're indented inside of the module name, and we can specify the path through to the file. Now for this, the configuration file is going to be different on my Fedora system and on my Ubuntu system. So I'm using a variable that I can populate later. So we can go through and add in our variable for the path. We can then specify what we are checking for. And we can do that with the regular expression, so regexp, and then go through and specify inside of quotes, we can go through and specify lines beginning with server tokens, a space, I'm going to bring a dot, which means any character, followed by any amount of those characters with the asterisk. That's then going to be the end of my regular expression, so I can put it in the closing quotes. If the line doesn't exist, so the regular expression we are searching for, if that doesn't exist, we can then go through and put insert after. And I'm going to try and keep the configuration items together, and I can look for lines beginning with server root, and we'll then add it in after server root. But if the line does exist but doesn't match what it should be, it will then replace that existing line. The line value that starts with server tokens should read server tokens, and then the most minimal of information that we can put is product prod. So with this, it will just show that it's an Apache server or an Nginx server or whatever. Obviously, we're working with Apache, so it won't give the Apache version, only Apache, and certainly won't give the operating system. Now, we need to make sure that we're lined up with the name and the module, so line in file, and we're going to put in a notify. With notify, we can let a handler know that it should be executed. And that handler we need to add, but is going to be called restart Apache. So we put the handler's name here. Handlers are very much the same as tasks, but unlike tasks, they only run when notified rather than always running. In this way, if we've changed the server configuration, we can restart the Apache service. So we go through, make sure that we're lined up with tasks, and we can add in then handlers. So the H of handler is lined up with the T of tasks and the G of gather_facts. We have a list of handlers, and here I'm going to go through and put restart Apache, matching the name that we added to the notify of our server tokens. We can use the service module. Again, the name of the service is going to be a variable. I'm already using this variable because the service name is going to be different across Debian-based systems and Red Hat-based systems. So the variable name is just Apache. And we can then go through and specify the state of the service that we want. And we want to go through and put restarted. So every time the handler executes, we restart the service. Now that is it, or at least that is it for our playbook. We've added in the handler to restart the Apache service, and we've added in the extra task to ensure that the configuration file is correct. But of course, that configuration is based on a variable, so we do need to set the variable. Using Ansible-inventory, I can go through and list my inventory, the hosts that I'm working with. I can print it in YAML format, so -y, and we can see the variables that we have at the moment. We've got the Apache variable for Ubuntu, which is set to Apache 2, so that's my package and service. And we have the Apache variable for the controller on our Red Hat-based system, the Fedora system, that is set to HTTPD. Now we need to add in our Apache_conf, so I can go through and access these in group_vars and Debian. For the Debian-based system, the Ubuntu system, I'm putting the Apache_conf points to /etc/Apache 2 /conf-available /security.conf. Now, once we've got that, we can go through and save the changes. And we need to do something very similar in our Red Hat file. We can go through then and put our Apache _conf, that's our variable name, and this time it's going to be /etc/httpd/conf/httpd.conf. And that's it, that's the variable set. We can go back and relist the variable settings. So we can see now that we're seeing the extra variable for each of our hosts, the Apache _conf, and the correct value, the path through to the configuration file is going to be used. As I go back and re-execute the playbook now, anything that's already meets the standard doesn't need to be run. But you can see then that we've run the task and the handler. If I go through and run it again, nothing should execute, and we shouldn't even see the handler being listed. So we only see the 4 tasks, we don't see the handler. The handler only executes when we go through and edit our files. Now, looking on our controller, we're able to see that it only shows me server and Apache, no version or operating system. When I look at it on the Ubuntu system, again, it's showing just server and Apache, the most minimal information that we can show.
All that is left to say is thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, then you are probably sadder than I first thought. For more of this drivel, please subscribe, like and comment to @TheUrbanPenguin.